What is up, everybody? Welcome on into this edition of Warchant TV. We are live. It's Michael Langston's recruiting call-in show. Thanks for joining us, folks. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Use that promo code WARCHANT30 for 30 free days of access. Also, subscribe to our YouTube page. That's totally free. Set your notifications for however frequently or infrequently you'd like to be notified when we drop these videos, the podcast, Ira and Jane's Insight, all the great things we do here on YouTube. Just click the little bell once you hit subscribe. And what else can they do, Michael Langston?
You can help us by hitting that like button and certainly keeping things active and just promoting this as much as we can. And certainly it helps us keep track of keep this thing in a positive direction.
For sure. All right. Speaking of directions and positive directions, Michael Langston, Florida State coming off a rather dismal performance against Miami, 52-10. Not the way you want to sort of put your best foot forward in front of one another to impress recruits, show them what you're trying to build in Tallahassee. But ultimately, I know you're not a big fan of reaching out to these kids immediately after a game like that, because obviously what's the point? But what's just been kind of your feel in the aftermath of that Miami game?
I think it's kind of the feel before I had that game, which is basically, you have to show these recruits growth and certainly it was a worst case scenario as far as what you wanted to see as far as that point as far as moving forward, a movement forward, a growth of difference, and certainly it was just a nightmarish game where nothing a recruit or anybody I think FSU associated can come away with that game and saying, hey, we did some nice things or we did this in a positive way. So yeah, it's made it tougher. Obviously, this kind of game impacts recruiting in the state of Florida. It doesn't really help you, James. Where I think if you have been competitive, certainly recruits can see that. But at the same time, recruits can see early playing time and a chance to get on the field earlier at a place like FSU. But it doesn't change anything as far as what we need to see going forward. There needs to be growth. And that's the word I've used for a while. And certainly that was a nightmarish performance and certainly did not help in recruiting. But there's no sense, that's what I tell people on our boards, there's no sense of me hitting up after a game like that on Saturday. Just not necessary. I think they saw what I saw, which is, just a very poor performance, and they had a chance on a big stage and they fell flat.
Ultimately, I mean, there's, fingers crossed, 9 more games left for this team at minimum. Kids have a short-term memory. I mean, this can be washed away to a certain degree. I mean, it won't be totally forgotten, but if you end the season strong, we probably won't be hanging up on this Miami loss nearly as much as we are right now, I would assume. Do you agree with that? Yeah,
I think the whole change is just it goes from week to week. Yeah, you're not going to move the needle. Say you go out there and blow Jacksonville State out. If that happened, that's not going to really move the needle, but it's going to set the tone for what you do the rest of the year. Say, in some scenario, out of those 4 quarterbacks, a young guy or a new guy steps to the plate and kids see the excitement of this offense, or we see. Obviously, you change what you're doing as far as finding a way to get a pass rush and changing this defense. So if those things are changed, it doesn't change the fact that it's going to be you could turn this around into a very positive direction. But it's about setting the tone for the rest of the season, and this is the game that you have to do that. As far as changes, you need to set the tone. You need to whatever changes I think you're going to make going forward for most of the year. I think this is the time to you'll probably do that, but. Yeah, it doesn't ruin things. And, the guy, Wayne Baldy asked how big of a hit. I don't think you can really tell how – as I said after the game, yeah, there's possibility that they could have lost a guy that's committed, after that game just on the direction currently. But at the same time, that could shift. We haven't seen any decommitments from that game yet. But yes, there's a negative trend as far as that game. It has to be. If there's not a negative trend, there's something wrong. But at the same time, if you change and you set the tone and change the tone, but they need to fix this quickly, not just for recruiting purposes, but for their future of what they want to do and what they want to be. You can't play this way in the first 2 games the way they played and think that that's going to change your culture or change where you're going. There needs to be accountability for every single position, and certainly that's what recruits are going to watch and see what they're doing to change stuff. Certainly is a negative effect as far as recruiting because it doesn't help. I mean, anything that doesn't help is going to be negative. Now, I haven't heard anything as far as recruits just jumping off the cliff or jumping off the board or jumping off the class yet, but I think it starts a trend of putting doubt in the minds of some of your top recruits like Brandon Jennings, Luke Altemeyer, those guys. It puts doubt in their mind that, hey, I could probably go somewhere else where I don't have to. No kid wants to come into a place where they feel like, you're 3 years away and they don't see a direction or growth. That's why I say growth is so important in recruiting as far as what you're doing on the field. It isn't about the W's. It's about the growth, just product on what you see on the field. It doesn't have to necessarily be, you could win 5 or 6 games. It's not, and that would be just fine as long as the product is improved and you see a different growth as far as this team. Now we know these guys are lined up right. Preparation is really good, but at the same time, the results are what we see, and the results are still the same. And you have to change that narrative. You have to change. And this is the time to set the tone. But no, all is not lost. But at the same time, you're still setting in a negative tone of where this program is going, and that's what needs to change.
All right. Well, you see it at the top of the screen. It says recruiting call-in show. So let's go ahead and waste a little more time, and let's get to the phone calls. We got our first caller of the day. Let me go ahead and grab it from our call queue, 850-805-5911. Welcome on into the show. You got Michael Langston's here and a whole bunch of Florida State fans across the world. Who's this and where are you calling us from?
Hey, Aslan. Hey, Michael. It's Gator Kirk from Virginia Beach. How you guys doing?
No.
Pretty good, G. How are you, man? Right on cue.
Hanging in there. Just, one of the things, I mean, it's 2 games. Yeah, we were horrific against Miami.
Yep.
They basically linebacking. So, I mean, if you look at the PFF scores,
right.
I mean, we need linebackers. So maybe Jennings or one of those kids will say, hey, I can come in there and do that. But one of the things that I think, and you can tell me whether it's true or not, that one main recruiting point I know they've used before is you can come in and possibly earn early playing time, and you can be the class that helps build around getting to a year from now, maybe getting 10 wins. But I mean, we have to be realistic. I mean, if we get 8 to 9 wins next year, that would be great. Yep. And then we have to build from there. We're not going to go out and get all the top 4s and 5-star recruits. I'd rather get a 3-star recruit that has heart and play his butt off than get a 4-star that hasn't had to bust his butt until he gets to college. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Kurt, that's some really good points. I'll address them first. Yes, this class, and I've addressed this many times on the board, that it's about fits and it's about getting the right guys, and we've already seen some of the right guys, already even as freshmen, show their worth as far as performing, even earning more playing time of what they should see. I think the linebacker position is certainly one that you have plenty of options as far as playing guys like Kalen DeLoach, guys like Steven Dix, or especially Dix. He's playing phenomenal. So, I mean, it feels like to me, I think that guy should be in the starting lineup just based on what I've seen. I mean, but there needs to be a change as far as I said, accountability as far as performances. And you're right, it's not. I mean, if you go out, and it goes back to the growth point I talk about. If you're growing in some capacity, recruits can cling on to that, and they say, like you said, Kirk, that they could be the class that turns this around, gets them to the point. Like I said, like you mentioned, 8 or 9 wins. The way you do that, though, is you have to there has to be some form of growth in some ability. Obviously, it's only 2 games in the season. 2 games is not a season, but like I said, this is the weekend where you can go in there. It's a winnable game. Doesn't mean it's guarantees you're going to win. For FSU, we don't know, but it's a game where you can go in there, make these changes, see what things these guys do well, whether it's offense or defense. And then certainly, I think it has to be an open competition as far as the quarterback position, because you have to look at that. That's just factual when you watch this game. I've said this to many people. When I watch FSU, and I watch a lot of college football on Saturday, when James Blackman's at quarterback, FSU does not look like any team I've seen around the country anywhere. So you have to figure out a way, whether it's him or somebody else, to get this offense in a flow, in a rhythm, so recruits have something to grasp onto. But I think you're exactly right, Kirk, that you need to get the guys that are the right fit, but you also there needs to be growth. And as far as it doesn't equal W's. It's not about W's. It's about just growth on the field. Of you're seeing a difference. That doesn't mean you just go totally the youth minute. You go with guys that are producing on the field that they played the first 2 weeks. They perform okay. Give them their chance to go out there and have accountability. Like I've said, accountability throughout the whole roster. If a guy's playing better, it doesn't matter if he's a freshman, sophomore, he needs to be on the field. But I just think it just needs to be growth. But Kirk, you're right that they can get to that point. It's about getting the right fits in this class, and they can get to the 8 or 9 plateau. But there needs to be something where accountability is an issue as far as the team and their performance the first 2 weeks.
All right, Gator, we appreciate the call, man.
Yep, I appreciate everything you do, and mad props out there to Hunter Washington that's still out there recruiting and trying to do the right thing. Everyone hit that thumbs up button. Ian Zaxby's, join Warchant if you haven't. And as always, go Noles. Just got to keep the faith. I mean, this year I'm still hoping for 500 or better. So just got to keep making little steps, progress, and build from there. It's a rebuild. I've finally realized, hey, it's a rebuild. So it's going to, they didn't give up this weekend. So anyway, thanks a lot, gentlemen. Go Noles. Have a great night.
There we go, man. Thank you, Gator Kirk, Virginia Beach, Virginia. 7-5.
Thanks, G. And he had some very good points in there, Aslan. Just you mentioned Hunter Washington briefly. For those that didn't know, Hunter reached out to me, I think early Monday, and just said, hey, phone's blowing up, but I am still very much committed to FSU. He's already, we put on the site of just a couple of guys that he's working on, and he's tipped off the FSU staff that, hey, these guys are players. So and you can read all that on our message board. But I think it's just a good point that it's a step-by-step process, and these 2 games are no more, gives you more evidence of that. Doesn't mean 2 games don't make a season, but that's why you hired these guys. Is they knew it's going to be rough. Now we see what you guys can do to adjust and fix things. And as I said, accountability has to be into it, because recruits are taking notice of that. Recruits just want to see improvement step by step. It doesn't have to be incredible improvement. It just needs to be a control, a flow of an offense or defense, and they just need to see growth there. And like I said, 2 games do not make a season. There's a chance to turn this around. I know from my perspective, as far as recruiting, there certainly needs to be things that are guys are held accountable and some adjustments and changes as far as on the field. But it's 2 games. That's why they hired these guys. Let them fix it. This is their job to fix it, and don't lose faith. Just these guys have won the amount of games they've won from Norvell staff for a reason. They've dealt with coming in and taking over programs. Maybe nothing like FSU as far as a top program like this, but this isn't their first rodeo. They understand what they're overtaking, and they understand it's going to be a process. So I just tell fans, I know it's 2 games. I know it looks detrimental and a nightmare and all that stuff, but just got to let these guys do their jobs, and this is what you pay them for.
Right on. All right, let's keep the phone lines going. Let's go back to our lines, 850-805-5911. Welcome on into the show. It's the Warchant.com recruiting call-in show with Michael Langston. Who's this and where are you calling us from?
This is Daryl from North Carolina. How y'all doing?
Good.
Good, Daryl. How's it going, man?
It's going real good. I got a couple of questions for you. I was kind of going to piggyback off of the Hunter Washington question. I saw he put out a couple of guys out there. Was the defensive end Barner.
Right.
what type of defensive end? He's kind of a speed rusher, or I know he's about 230 pounds, which he's gonna have to put on some weight, in college. But is he kind of a speed rusher that somebody at Florida State could use? And if so, when a recruit that that's already committed to Florida State, how much stock does the coaches put in when a player recommends somebody else that's on their team?
Yeah, it's always a big thing. I mean, first I'll ask the latter thing, what you said. It's always a big thing when a coach hears from the player, because I mean they have first hand eye. They've seen these guys in person, especially for Hunter's sake, because Cal Varner is the guy who's talking about defensive end. He plays on his team. He knows him well. So he's a guy that he's played on his team. Very much a speed rusher. To get after, he's kind of on the radar as far as guys, because there's so many prospects out there. But the fact that he is an edge rusher. He gets after the quarterback. Very good wheels from sideline to sideline. I don't know a ton about him except for what I watched in film, which is you could tell he's mainly a guy that gets off the edge. Now, it's up to the coaches to evaluate him and see what they think and see if this guy fits kind of what they're looking for as far as at the position, and just do some background check and all this stuff that they usually do. But certainly the kid can get after the quarterback. I mean, you notice that in everything he does. Plays for one of the best teams in Texas at Katy. So he's playing the best competition. Certainly a guy that could be an answer for them, and a guy that they could possibly heavily look at. Then the other kid was another kid that's from Dallas. Want to say CJ Baskerville. It's a safety, 6'3", 190 pounds. He's a guy that's going to visit with Hunter when he comes over for the North Carolina game. Both of them are guys that he's watched for a while, and he didn't mainly just push them. The coach, he said, "Look, these guys can play, coach. I think they would be highly interested in FSU. I think they fit everything that we're kind of looking for." And as Hunter said, I want to bring the real players, to FSU, the real Texas players. So you can tell, I mean, he's not going to put that out there unless he's pretty sold on it. And coaches take that certainly heavily in consideration, but they got to be sold on them. But I think it speaks to just Hunter in depth as far as, he was disappointed in obviously the result, but at the same time, he wants to do whatever he can do to help fix this. I mean, a lot of these recruits all want to fix this. All these recruits love FSU, but you don't want to give them a reason not to come there. That's why I say growth is important in these games in some degree. And so I think that's just these recruits commits just want to see them play better. Even recruits that aren't committed, they just want to see a growth, and they understand. Here's the other thing. I mentioned about the growth and all this stuff, but here's the other thing. These players, recruits, uncommitted targets, and even committed targets, they understand that this roster is flawed. They understand that these coaches are taking over something that is a dramatic undertaking as far as having to fix a lot of stuff. They understand what they're taking, so they're not holding them accountable like, oh, these coaches stink or something like that. It's just like they understand what they're going through. They just want to see growth as far as the team and in general, and that's kind of where they're at. Like I told people before the start of the year, they're starting over. They're literally starting over as far as this team. The previous staff, and then you add in what Jimbo did as far as just ready to go to greener pastures and somewhere else. They really just hurt the direction of FSU, especially the last 2 years. So that is what it is. These guys know what they're facing. They're adapting to it, and now it's just about seeing the growth of these coaches and finding things that work. We've seen the first few games what doesn't work. These guys have had 2 games of film now, so at this point now you should see the changes in growth as far as what these coaches can do. These are all. That's the other thing. These are all really great coaches that come from great programs. So these guys know how to coach. It's just about finding what works and highlighting that, and just getting the most out of what you have, and also getting the most out of these evaluations that they're doing for the 2021 class. You have to make sure you get them right so these guys can come in there and help you. So I think that's really, the bottom line with, the things what Hunter did. But the reason I posted that too is just it meant a lot to me that Hunter reached out to me. I did not bug any, commits or recruits after that game. It's not necessary. They understand. They saw what they saw. So I wanted to give everyone their space. I know all these recruiting services blow up these kids' phones, and it's like I don't operate like that. I try to put my foot in their shoes as far as what they're going through, and I just kind of if I know how they're feeling, I'm not gonna. I wouldn't want somebody hitting me up, So I kind of gave them space, and a lot of recruits reached out to me and said, "Yeah, we're frustrated, but we just want to see growth and." And we still believe in Coach Norvell. Just about all of them have said that as far as that's the message. So that's what I got so far. It doesn't mean things aren't concerning with, guys that are commits in the class. If you don't turn it around, yes, it's going to lead to decommits. But the most important thing for FSU is showing the growth in the product. And I still think they got the right guy as far as to get that job done.
All right,
I got one more quick thing for you.
Okay.
I just want to ask you about how important it is that this weekend that we get the new players playing this week in the lineup. How important do you think that is playing for the future?
Well, I don't think, and I saw a lot of people post about, just play the future, go with the youth movement. I'm about playing the best guys. Like, I don't care if you're a junior, sophomore. If you're freshman, cool. I mean, if Robert Scott's better than Darius Washington, then play Robert Scott. If these other guys are better, then play them. That's what my thing is. I want to see changes of who's playing better from what we've seen the first two games. Is Thomas Strader's playing better than the other guards? Play Thomas Strader. And it's like if receiver, somebody's playing better than Warren Thompson or your quarterback. That's what I want to see. I want to see guys rewarded for the play that they've done the first few games, and I just want to see some adjusting and changes. Yes, I want to see the new guys. I think Toafili really had a strong game as far as that first game. You'd like to see that guy get a lot more reps. Toafili, Corbin, both of them look pretty good in that game. I just want to see guys that are performing at a high level or grading out at a high level. You want to see those guys more, and then you want to see some adjustments to what they're doing on offense and defense. I just want to see the positive as far as what's going on in practice and what's going on in these games. When we see these games, it's like, okay, great, they're great in practice, but in the games, you have to see a different result. And I just want to see some sort of flow, whether it's freshmen, the youth movement, or it's guys that have earned it on the field that are juniors and stuff. I just want to see the guys that have been productive the first two games. Let's see what they can do, and let's reward them, and then adjust kind of our game plan of what we've done so far.
All right. Thank you, guys. Y'all do an awesome job, and we love what y'all do each and every week. And go Noles. Hit that like button down there in that right corner. Go to your Zaxby's and sign up for Warchant. Y'all the best, man. Go Noles.
Bye-bye. Thank you, buddy.
Daryl knows the deal, man. We appreciate you, Daryl. Thanks for the call, man. Let's grab another call here real quick. I've been waiting on the line for 11 minutes. Don't want to make people wait that long. Welcome on to the show. It's the Warchant.com recruiting call and show with Michael Langston. Who's this? Where are you calling us from?
This is Memphis Noel from Memphis, Tennessee, obviously.
Nice.
And I'm working, so I can sit on hold as long as you need.
Well, he's from Memphis, so he probably knows Norvell better than anybody.
I have actually ran into him at church a few times. Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
So it was funny seeing the Twitter feed from Memphis fans here on this side when he moved over, because I was like, actually, I'm pretty excited for it. But I have two questions. They're high-level analytical kind of questions. So my first one is, if Norvell knew, let's say he knows I've got 5 years, never going to get fired, no, we'll worry about that whatsoever, how do you think he would go through recruiting year by year as opposed to the, I've got to win now kind of mentality so I don't look bad? Would he say, I want to set the base for the first 2 years? Maybe that means going after 3 stars, maybe a 4-star, and then working my way up. If you had that kind of guarantee in place in his mind.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this staff, and he's done this everywhere he's been, is he's going to get his guys. He's done that even things were going really well at Memphis. He's going to get his guys. Whether they're there's going to be 4 and 5 stars. I think what people would like to see more of is the urgency in the state of Florida. They'd like to see more upstick in state of Florida recruiting, but you kids got to see the product. And so far the first 2 games they haven't really got a feel for a positive product there. But I think the first few years he's going to, especially this year, he's going to go after the guys that fit everything. Like you mentioned, the three stars and the low 4 stars. I think those getting the right fit the first year is the big thing. But I also said playing this year is going to benefit them in a dramatic way, because as long as you show some productivity as far as moving forward and growth and stuff like that, even if it's a small step with what they have to deal with and this undertaking they've had to do with this whole roster and this team, understanding the culture. You got a lot of guys that are sometimes immature, selfish. So you've had to break all those things. So there's a lot to fix, not to mention your defense and your offense and changing the way these guys play consistently. So I think it's really key to get the first year. You have to get those right guys. Now, I think in the second year you're going to see more 4 stars, maybe in a 5-star. But it's always going to be fit with Norvell, and you know this better than anybody in Memphis, Noel, because you followed him, obviously in Memphis. He's going to get the guy that fits the character of what he expects from his kids. He's going to get the guy that fits for this offense, fits for the defense. And I don't think that's really going to change now. It will be an upstick as far as kids wanting to come to FSU, as far as the draw will be higher once we see some positive direction as far as the team's going, but they'll get to where they want. It's just it's a process. It's going to take a little longer than most people think, because there's a lot to fix here. There's a lot to do with Norvell, and he knows he's going to get time. He's doing everything. He's doing all the right things he can do to get these guys ready. So I think the first year is really the evaluation bridge class of getting the right evaluations. And then the second year, same thing, but it'll be an upstick as far as 4 and 5 stars. So I think that's kind of their plan.
Okay. Second question, just off of what Herb Street said on the game, Miami game this weekend. He said, I already lost what I was going to say. That looking at combine numbers and just focusing on the wrong things when he's recruiting. I don't know if that's a Norvell thing. Obviously, it's been an FSU thing for the past 4 or 5 years. But what's the one wrong metric that you feel like a lot of these recruits over the past 5 years we've been getting that don't fit the mold? Like too worried about speed, too worried about height, too worried about star rankings. Like, where do you think most coaches in FSU have missed over the past 5 years?
I would say the measurements is a big deal to a lot of you think this guy fits better because say he's a receiver and he's 6'4", 6'3". You can in 200 whatever you can take advantage of that. You can't fall in love with those measurements. They get you into trouble, and the hype surrounding the kid. You have to make sure that he's a fit for this system. I can say even just in a short time, I've seen Norvell get guys that he knows can play here, that can fit here. Tate Rodemaker, Luke Altemeyer, quarterback, Chubba Purdy. These are all guys that fit here. Even Deron Wilmanson, Ja'Kai Douglas, these guys fit to what he wants to do as far as in his offense. And you got to get the right guys as far as what you're doing. You can't get carried away. And I think sometimes in the past classes, some have just taken reaches, especially at the end of Jimbo's career. There was a lot of reaches at the end where this guy had a lot of potential, but the chances of him fitting into what you're doing was a reach. And I think Taggart did some of those as well, where you're hoping this guy falls through and goes with you. But we saw that with JUCO offensive lineman Jay Williams. That kid, it's nothing against the kid. He's a sweet kid, all that stuff, but he just not FSU quality when you watch him play. Guys like Chaz Neal, just guys. Chaz still has a chance to turn around, but it's just guys like that, evaluations like that you have to make sure every guy you're evaluating fits what you want. And so far, I can say every guy in the class, the new guys that Norvell's got, that he's personally recruited, they all fit exactly what this offense can highlight or this defense. So that's the thing that's very encouraging to me is evaluations have been pretty solid so far. We've seen that with the tight end position. We've seen that with the offensive line position. We've seen that, the guys that he's had the guy he has at quarterback. So I think that's an encouraging sign that he's learning from basically what the previous staffs have done of you got to be careful and just looking at measurements and heights and just, not 40 times, but just the hype surrounding what they do and get too carried away with that and not getting guys that fit your system, fit what you want and what you're looking for in a player.
All right, Memphis Noel.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, buddy.
My goal is to beat Gator Kirk next time to the punt first call.
You got to get up early in the morning, man, to beat that guy. You got to rush it in.
Have a good one.
Thanks,
See
man.
you, buddy.
Appreciate you, man. All right. In the meantime, while we were taking the phone calls, people are posting questions galore over here on YouTube. Let's grab this one from none other than the Godfather himself, Ray Pereira. Play his theme song. Ray in the house, man. We appreciate you, Ray. Thanks so much, man. He's here every show, it seems like, throwing something in the tip jar for us. He asks you, Michael, how do the recruits just simply believe in Norvell irrespective of the progress made on the field because the players aren't his?
Yeah, that's a good point, too. I mean, like I said, everyone wants to, same people after the game, but tribal council is always crazy. It's nonstop, but people wanting to fire him. It's just like that's ridiculous and stupid. I mean, it's like, come on, these aren't his players. There's a lot to fix. He understood that when he took the job. He knew he'd have some talented players, and it's his job to mold them. Yeah, so that's what I say. This year, technically, yeah, it is a wash in per se because you're dealing with COVID. You didn't even get a spring. It's your first year. You're having to fix a lot of things. Yeah, comparable to other schools that are first year programs, they haven't had to deal with the stuff that he's had to deal with and taking over things that were from the bottom that you have to really, like, you're starting over from the bottom. So, Corey Clark and Ira Chaffel touched on it really good. It's just there's a lot to fix, and it's a bad football team. It's got a long ways to go. But so to your point, yeah, Ray, it's not. I think recruits understand, as I said, they understand that it's a flawed roster. They understand that what they're taking over, what FSU did in the previous seasons. They understand that stuff. That's why growth's so important, even if it's in small steps. And I think that starts this weekend where you can really set the tone as far as that growth. But there has to be some kind of change as far as adjusting what you're doing. See people jumping on, Adam Fuller and Coach Norvell and Coach Dillingham. These guys are trying to figure out what they have and how they can highlight what they do well. So they're still trying to figure out what works. They're adjusting. They're doing different things. They're going to have to adjust more to figure out what these guys do as a strength. But, yeah, the recruits do know. They understand the prospect of the progress made on the field. And they understand that it's going to take some time as far as establishing that brand and culture. That's why I say it's so important to play the first year just to get them reps on the field so recruits can see what their weaknesses are, how they can help them. And I think they'll get there, but it's just going to take a little longer than I thought probably, and then probably most people, but it's going to be a process of growth. And that's something I'm going to mention all year as far as what we're looking for at growth at each position. And at the same time, I think the important thing after a game like Miami and after the first game is seeing the accountability of, Coach Norvell says the best is going to play. Okay, we need to see that as far as accountability on the field. And I think if you're consistent about that and the messages are consistent, which I think it will be, I'm very confident it will be, I think that's a quicker step to the growth that we're looking for.
All right, let's take another phone call here. Again, thanks to Ray Pereira. The tip, I can't call them donations. It's we're not a charity or anything here, but are much appreciated. Let's grab a phone call. They've been waiting around in the queue for about 10 minutes, so thanks for hanging tight. Welcome on into the show. It's the Warchant.com recruiting call-in show with Michael Langston. Who's this? Where are you calling us from?
How you doing, man? This is Jermaine from Pensacola, and I just had a quick question. You know, I'm from Pensacola, Florida, man. We got some studs over here, and we got some blue-collar players. You know, you think of a guy like Keyshawn Helton, who was really close to going to a small school. We have players like JoJo Blackman at Escambia High School, McGee, who everybody's trying to get over at Pensacola Catholic. Why haven't Florida State locked down an area like Pensacola, Navarre, Crestview? That's like 2.5 to 3 hours away from their campus. It's like Chief Osceola Head is pointing towards the east of the state with his back to the west. We have some really good players here. They're not divas, you know, like, no offense to the boys down in South Florida, man, but, you know, the world tell them they're great, and that's how they feel and they walk around, which over here on the Panhandle, we know we're great, but we're still trying to prove it every day because everybody doubts.
Yeah, I agree with you. There are some very solid prospects over there. Obviously, Jacob Copeland's from there, Keyshawn Helton. I think Simeon Price is another one that's really good from that area. FSU already has one in their class, and Kimo Macanole, offensive lineman from Niceville. They're also recruiting Nazare Thomas, a 4-star DB in the 2022 class. So I agree with you. That area is really good. And to be honest, Jermaine, that place gets so – I mean, it's probably the most underscouted, undervalued area in the whole state of Florida, in my opinion, just because the talent is so good. Just gets unnoticed because it's almost it's lower than Tallahassee. You know, it's like it's down lower Tallahassee. So you people, I just think they don't get the fair shake of what they want as far as the talent that comes out of there. There's some really good talent. You mentioned the McGee kid. He's certainly you know, another talented stud. I wouldn't really get too locked in though to the first year of them. I mean, they're already on Macanole when a lot of people weren't. They jumped on him. They jumped on other guys. Personally, I thought they should have jumped on Simeon Price. I really liked him. I think he's committed to South Carolina. He's one I really like. But I think that will happen, and it'll happen consistently, like the way you want it to. I think that's an area they're going to recruit hard. I think right now they're trying to find guys that, one, they have a connection with, and two, fit what they're looking for in their system. But I don't think they're just going to ignore this area at all. I don't see that at all. I mean, this staff is very active, despite what fans think in the state of Florida. They're trying to find the right fits. They don't care where you're from. They prefer it to be from the state of Florida. That's their first priority. They want to get kids from the state of Florida. They want to get kids from areas like Pensacola. I think they will. It will slightly, you'll see the shift to that probably more so in the 2022 class. Might even happen in 2021, but I think they do want to recruit the state of Florida harder or get more kids from the state of Florida. But it's not like they're not recruiting it. People think they're not recruiting the state of Florida harder when they are. They are, but you have to get kids that want to be here, kids that want to you know, come in there. I think that's the big deal as far as you know, battling. And then, as Adambe just said right there, it's very divided as far as Alabama, Auburn. There are schools that come in there a lot that do well in the you know, certainly in the Panhandle area. But I don't think it's going to be a thing where they're ignoring it. I think it's just going to be right now, this first year, they're just trying to find the right guys that fit everything they're looking for. They don't care if you're from Pensacola or Lincoln, Nebraska, or Idaho or wherever. They're just trying to get the right fits. But what you want, I think, will happen in the next year and in the years to come follow. I think they're going to be really good there. Marcus Woodson's very good in that Panhandle, Pensacola area. So he's a guy to get very familiar with. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be pushing hard. Dillingham is also very popular in the Pensacola area and the Panhandle. So look for that to happen and to see a lot more surge with that in 2022.
Well, I appreciate it because it's really frustrating to see some of these players going to Minnesota and Arizona State. I love for them to stay home with the nose. So I appreciate it, man. You're doing a good job. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Jermaine. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's crazy, man. Like, I cannot think of like the last. I mean, we've gotten guys out of the Pensacola, as you mentioned, but like elite guys. I mean, Trent Richardson went to Bama. Alex Sutherland went to Bama. Jacob Copeland went to Florida. I mean, there are some real game breaker guys.
There is. I mean, it's a very. I spend a lot of time over there. I even go to games over there pretty often. I even hit up coaches just to tell me what their best game is because I really want to go over there. I really like enjoying going over there. It's a great area. Keyshawn Helton is phenomenal, which, by the way, just, quote to Norvell, you might want to get that guy the ball a little more in this offense because he's pretty phenomenal. But there's a lot of great athletes from that area. And it's not just FSU that ignores. I think Jermaine's right. I think it's just there's so many teams that ignore that area. Now, FSU has not gotten a high 4 or 5-star guy because most of them have gone to other places. Alex Leatherwood went to Alabama. You mentioned Trent Richardson. So they've missed on the highly rated guys, but even if they're not highly rated, you get really good fits and talent. There's a lot of talent in that Panhandle area.
All right, man, let's go back to the phone lines. We got somebody hanging tight. We do appreciate it. Let's go. They fell off. I'll try to this call back. I was right about to grab your call. We'll see if we can get you back here on the show. A lot of people asking about Destyn Payson, want to know what's up with him, Shambre, etc. Anything new on those two guys, Michael? It feels like we've been talking about those guys committing for a long time. I think
Shambre is still going to happen in a week or so. I still think it's going to be FSU. I still feel good about that. Destyn Payson actually changed his name to Destyn Hill now, so I don't know the story.
I don't know Destyn Hill. I'm like, who? You mean Payson?
I don't know the story about that, but no, I think they're both. Those are guys that I would still project still for FSU. I still like FSU's chances. I haven't heard anything different to change the momentum there, so I think that's the latest. And as far as taking what's so long, it's up to the kids. Deanna, it's like we don't. It's just up to the kids of when they want to decide. Shambre's kind of hinted in the next week or so or week he's going to, make his decision, and I think that's coming down. Now, Destyn, we don't know. He hasn't indicated a timeline as far as that, but I think both of them, I have not heard anything to lead me away. I've checked on all these guys. I haven't heard anything to lead me away that FSU is still the expected choice.
All right. Just about knocked the camera off.
I saw that.
Taking my feet up here, trying to getting too comfortable here, man. I'm on the clock. Can't be relaxing here. Let's see. We got the phone lines back up. All right, somebody's right on here, waiting on in. That's very well. Welcome on into the Warchant.com recruiting call show with Michael Langston. Who's this? Where are you calling us from?
Hey, this is Austin Hernandez from Winter Haven, Florida.
Austin,
how y'all doing, man?
Hulk in the house.
Yeah, Winter Haven. How you doing, man?
Good, man. I was just wondering how, what's the word now with all these recruits seeing after Florida State got blew out by Miami, and they're talking about how Jacksonville State's going to be a fight. I mean, that can't be good for our recruits who want to see us continue to grow and things like that. What are they saying out there?
It's not a positive direction, Austin, certainly. I mean, it's not really ulterior negative. It just opens the door for other schools to come in there and offer something where their team's playing well. They can sell more of the future. And so, I mean, I think it's more just they all love FSU, the commits and stuff do, even the uncommitted guys. But at the same time, there needs to be some growth, and it needs to change quickly. As Norvell's alluded to, we got to fix this quickly. He understands the urgency as far as getting it right, getting the right guys on the field. But it wasn't a positive direction. There wasn't anybody that came out to me and said, "Oh, Mike, I'm going somewhere else. I just can't go there." I mean, I can't see me going there, and just kept that between me and them. Now, I didn't get that conversation, but there are some where you're going to start trending to that direction if this pattern continues, and you're going to lose guys. You might not lose them off the Miami game. Now, you probably lost a lot of momentum with kids that are in South Florida, kids that are in the state of Florida. As far as the 2022 class, that's going to hurt you. So that's why it's important to shift the momentum. And this is a great tone setter as far as this weekend. You have to start changing the tone. You have Jacksonville State, and then you have to play on the road against Notre Dame. You want to have some momentum and confidence for these kids, because that's the one thing these guys are lacking so big is confidence. And that's what recruits want to see, is they want to see a flow. They want to see, obviously, a little bit better product and some growth, but they also want to see these guys having fun and having some confidence. And first two games, that has not been a lot of fun. It's not shown to be a lot of fun when you watch it. It's pretty difficult to watch when you watch this team. But I don't think recruits are ready just to jump off the ship. But if it keeps it set the tone of negativity. It wouldn't surprise me if one of the guys is already one of the commits or one or two have already kind of rethinking this, like, hey, is this the best place? So I think they want to see some kind of shift as far as what are you going to do to change this and fix this, and that's the thing, that growth is the word I consistently use. But I think it comes to a point where the recruits are going to be patient. They love FSU, but you have to show them something. You got to give them something to grow onto. And I think the recruits also understand. I've mentioned earlier, they understand what he's taking as far as a flawed situation, that he's having to fix a lot of stuff. So they understand all that stuff, but at the same time, you have to give them something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Also, one more question. How bad is it hurt in Florida State recruiting that we actually can't have any recruits on campus until, what they say, I think January is the end of the dead period now?
Well, if you ask anybody as far as the starting year, I don't know if you want to recruit on campus, but it hurt them really bad in the spring and summer, because that was the time where you could have gotten a lot of these 5 stars on campus. There was a lot that were going to come, be around FSU. You could have established a culture relationship with a lot of these guys that you can only do so much on a Zoom call or a FaceTime. So that the spring and summer is what hurt them the most. Now, as far as having them on campus now, yeah, that would benefit them when you play somebody bigger like UNC on October 17th. That's a big game, which I think a lot of recruits are going to come over for that game. So that's certainly a game I have circled that recruits are going to be paying their own way to go see FSU. So I think that's a big deal. It's really hurt them the most, though, in the spring and summer, because they couldn't get these guys in there and establish relationships, show them what their plans are, feel what their plans are in person. It's just a different feel in person. That part has really hurt them. They've been dealt a lot of blows in this, first season for Norvell. I mean, it breaks my heart just watching the guy, all the stuff he's had to deal with, 2 different situations off the field, and then the COVID hits. Then he gets COVID. Then he doesn't even get to coach in the first Miami game. And then it's just one thing after another, it seems, for that guy. It's like you feel for him, but at the same time, they just got to find a way to adjust to fix this. And it has hurt them as far as recruits, as far as not getting these guys on campus, more so in the spring and summer.
Yes, sir. I just want to say thank y'all. Great job on picking Rod Orr to the next commitment. It was awesome. Y'all are great. Eat at Zaxby's, hit and like, subscribe, and then join Warchant. Thanks, guys. Y'all are awesome.
That's right, man.
Thanks, Austin. Yeah, that's kind of lost in the whole shuffle. Thanks for the call, Austin, by the way. That's kind of lost in the shuffle as long as the pickup of Rod Orr, because it went right in the weekend. But that was a phenomenal pickup for them, and it's like a kick in the stomach. After that game. But and I know how people feel as far as emotionally frustrated. I shared my thoughts on the game. I do that for every game. I don't have to do that. Gene doesn't ask me to do it. Nobody asked me to do it. I do it just because people want to know what my viewpoint as far as what it means and just what I saw and stuff like that. But I just try to be what I do is I take my time. I take emotion out of it. And you just got to look at the whole thing as far as what needs to change, what things do I see that it needs to be adjusted. And I think they're going to do what people want them to do. It's just not going to happen to the process of speed that people want it to do. I think some people are still just not accepting where this was when they took over. And I think they kind of see that now with some of these players. They have a lot of 4 and 5 stars that Aslan just aren't playing like 4 and 5 stars. I mean, they're not producing like 4 and 5 stars. Obviously, your quarterback position, that's been, like I said, they don't look like any team I've seen when Blackman's under center. And that's not to say, oh, yeah, you got to bench them, but it's just like you got to figure something out. And so they understand that they have to figure this out, and recruits understand that. So I think that's really the bottom line when you look at this whole process is they have to find out what works the best on both sides of the ball.
We got a caller here. We're going to grab it here in a second. I just want to ask you, I don't know if you can give it a quick answer, kind of, Michael. I don't want to take up too much time. They got smoked by Louisville back in 2016, but I guess that was a totally different kind of culture or program at the time. Florida State was only a few years removed from a national title. Like that Louisville game didn't really sink their recruiting, did it?
Right. No, it didn't. And I think the biggest issue, and I said this, and I say this, I'm not trying to be mean, but when I watch this team, I see a really mentally weak team. Like they need something to boost their confidence. They need something.
A new coach. We thought maybe a new coach.
Yeah, but you can't. It's going to take time to break those molds of habits and bad things that they do. It's like the shove out of bounds by Jaleel McRae, just face mask on key plays that you just can't have. I mean, you have to be more in control of your emotions in the moment. Thing with Tamari and Terry, it's like on the sidelines, it's like that kind of stuff is what they're dealing with. I think people finally start seeing now they're dealing with a lot of stuff. They have to break these guys of the mold of immaturity and in the mold of weakly minded things of, when plays go bad, it doesn't mean you just fall apart. It just means you get back to grind. And they're trying to get them in a consistent mode of execution. We hear Kenny Dillingham talk about execution all the time. That's what he's focused on. They're talking about is doing the same reps over and over the right way. And they're going to break them of that stuff, but it's going to, it's a process to take time with that. And they got to get in the flow. And no, this game is not going to just crush their recruiting because it's a different thing because you're basically starting from the bottom and you had to take over. So that's kind of it.
Well, caller dropped off. Sorry about that, caller. I was trying to just make a quick segue to you, but if you're buzzing in and giving us a question, we'll surely answer it here. Let's see. A lot of people still talking here on YouTube. Let me pull up one of the more interesting questions if I can find one here.
Okay.
Man, lots of people not feeling it today. A lot of people not feeling it today, Michael. They want everybody gone. They want everybody gone.
Well, I mean, it's like, what does that really solve? I mean, you're talking about getting rid of everybody. Okay, so you're going to get rid of the coach the first year, and you're going to start over again, and then you have to go through this process again. So regardless of who you get rid of, you're going to have to start the process over. It's like I don't care what coach you get in there, there's going to be a process to developing and it takes time to build your brand. You're comparing FSU situation to every other school, and they're not. They're in a lot of problems that they have to fix, and it's going to take time, and you have to give this guy 3 to 4 years to do that. I mean, it just doesn't – I mean, I don't understand the firing thing. That just makes no sense. Like, okay – you see the defense,
and they're just they want a new quarterback. They want a bunch of new stuff. They're not very sold on the staff, but I guess that's to be expected after you lose your rival by 42 flipping points. We got a phone call. Let's go ahead and grab that one real quick so they don't drop off. Welcome on in to the Warchant.com recruiting call and show with Michael Langston. If you could maybe turn us down on your computer or your device, or if you're at a party, that's fine too. You can party. I'm not going to tell you not to party. Who are you calling from?
Well, actually, I'm coming from Charlotte, but I had a question.
Okay.
Is this not the same? Is this not the same thing we were going through with Willie Taggart? And when has Willie Taggart not scored? When has Willie Taggart scored 26 points in 2 games? Wasn't he having like 21 points a game?
No, Willie Taggart in his first 2 games against ACC teams.
Hold on.
Hey, no, man. It doesn't work like that. No, you're not going to call in here, and you're not going to tell me to be quiet. If you're going to have some facts, have your facts ready. Willie Taggart's first 2 ACC games were against Virginia Tech and were against Syracuse in 2018. They look absolutely horrible, and they did not score 23 points combined in those 2 games. Now, mind you, I am not trying to say in any way, shape, or form that Mike Norvell and his offense have looked good at all. But let's not go down this route, man. Willie Taggart didn't get a raw deal. He did not coach anywhere near the capability of what Florida State wanted or what Florida State was capable of. I understand there's a lot of people that are upset and they feel that he got a raw deal. You can think that. But let's not bring it onto the recruiting show and try to make this into something more than it is. Now, that said, I'm going to unmute you, but you hung up because you don't want to talk about things.
Well, I mean, that's emotion. When you get emotion involved, that's why you have to. There's a lot of emotional reactions. I get it. People are ticked off and pissed off and all these things, but you can't let facts get in the way of being angry. And that guy just was listing stuff that just didn't happen. And you're talking about 2 games. So you're going to evaluate Norvell in 2 games compared to 2 years with Taggart. It's like, no, that's just – and then you have facts that aren't even true, as far as the first 2 games. It's like, okay, I get it. You want to be better. But, no, he didn't get a raw deal. in my opinion. I just don't think. I think he earned everything that happened in that situation. So you just leave it at that. But let's try to get back on recruiting. And what you got, Aslan?
You know what, though? I really hope Mike Norvell scores at least 35 points against Jacksonville State, or however many he scored against Samford, because then you might have an argument. But right now, with what you're trying to bring, it was not going to really be a valid argument. But yeah, I guess it's just a lot of concern, man. There's just a lot of concern. And
there should be. And there should be. There's concern among recruits, too. I mean, I'll lay that right. Yeah, there is concerns with recruits because they want to see nobody wants to come into a situation where if it's just this bad all the time. You know, they want to see something that there's growth and improvement. So, yeah, there's a concern there.
All right, let's see here. I'm trying to find a question here in the midst of all this. It's like we get a call, and I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about this question, and it falls off the screen. And I'm like, oh, maybe we should actually run up and grab it here. I'm going to find something here, I promise.
Okay.
Just searching and it's scanning. Man, Swolnell wasn't feeling his day, man. Swolnell, I think he left, though. I think he's not too upset any longer. It's just a lot of complaining right there. There's not a lot of questions. But, you know, I guess such is to be expected.
That's kind of what I tried to go on this. And I don't blame the people for feeling the way they do. I mean, they're frustrated. They've dealt with this for 3 years. I get it. I totally get people being angry, but I'm not going to look at that way because, you know, I have a job to do as far as looking at this objectively and what they can do to fix things and what they can do to adjust. I'm not going to judge a coach by 2 games, just like I'm not going to I'm just not going to do that. I mean, there's a evaluation period. There's a process. I knew what he was taking over, so I'm not going to hold it. I'm not going to hold him hostage with that. But at the same time, there is accountability, like I mentioned. Everybody, coaches, players, everything has to be accountable each week.
Hey, Roshan, hey man, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not saying 3 or 4 years. I mean, it might take 3 or 4 years to get this thing fixed. I don't know if one guy gets all 3 or 4 years of it, but I mean, you know, if you look this bad year 2, the way the last guy looked this bad in his year 2, then I think you have some serious sort of comparisons. But right now, at this point, I really don't think we will. What's going on, Luke Altmaier? Obviously, you know, people concerned about recruiting maybe falling off board. He's a guy that's in the state now with 2 pretty exciting offenses with what Mike Leach has done right down the road in Starkville and with what Lane Kiffin's doing in Oxford. I mean, Luke Altmaier, does he remain one of the more steady guys you think on board, or is it natural to be concerned about him possibly?
I think it's naturally to be concerned because FSU has not looked good on offense the first 2 games. They got humiliated on TV. Ole Miss is really the only main team. I know his dad works at, I think, Mississippi State, but I don't really consider Mississippi State. I haven't heard that there's anything concerned about, but Ole Miss is a concern. And obviously, Ole Miss played their first game against Florida, got their butts kicked, but at the same time, their offense looked really good. And this goes back to what I was talking about, that certain programs don't have to deal with all the stuff that Norvell's had to deal with as far as taking over his team. It's not the same situation at Ole Miss. That's a team with that was a coherent union, a team that just needed better leadership and a better coaching staff. And they got that, but FSU's is not the same. But at the same time, he's showing on the field. It's got Matt Luke over there. I think he's one of the guys, offensive line coach. I think he was formerly at old.
No, Matt Luke's at Georgia now. He's
Georgia. Excuse me.
But no, I mean, Lane Kiffin's got 2 good quarterbacks. He's got Matt Cole and John Rice Plumlee.
All right, got some good coaches there. I got Matt Luke mixed up. But point is, they got good coaches and they perform well. And so, yeah, that's a concern when one team's performing well and the other team hasn't really shown a lot. So, yeah, there's going to be some concern there, and I am somewhat concerned just with what I've seen just on the field. But at the same time, right after the game, Luke Altmaier said, trust the process. It takes a while. So I think he was referring to FSU and what they're doing. So it seems like he still believes in what they're doing. But at the same time, if this pattern continues, you will lose guys like there's going to be some commits you lose, and it could be Luke if you don't fix these issues, and that's really the bottom line.
What about the offensive tackles? Last question as we round up action here today from Flassin 81. Do you think there are any offensive tackle prospects out there we haven't offered that might be a good fit for us?
Most of them I've seen that they've offered. I think they're all good fits. I think I've covered in depth every one of them. It's hard. It's hard for me to see any guy that I can say, "Oh man, I can't believe they haven't offered that kid." A little bit surprised the Cameron Scott kid wasn't looked at harder. Although he does seem to be more of a guard when I watch him, but that's about the only one I can think of. The other ones starts with a K, by the way. Anyway, there's some guys that I think every one of the guys that I've seen them target. Amarian Crim's another one that I mentioned. I mentioned him on my hot board. He's committed to Duke. He's a guy that I like. I think they likely could push for. So I think every other guy though that they push for, I think that are good. That's why I love the Rod Orr pick. I love the Kimo Makanole pick. These are guys that bring the physicality and bring that athleticism that FSU is sorely needing in this offense. We've seen a little bit of that with flashes with Robert Scott, but you want to see more of that. And I think they have the guys they're recruiting fit that mold. And I think they're going to get some one or two transfers. So I don't think Norvell's going to slow down until he totally fixes this situation, guys. Offensive line, and I think he's shown that with commits he's got this year. Transfer he got last year with Love Taylor. I think he's going to do it until it's right, and I think he will get the offensive line right. I think he will. That's one thing I am very confident on. What I want to see is, and this is just my opinion, Aslan, just to close out the show, man, you have got to change what you have at quarterback. Like, when I look at that team, I just don't see any way that you're going to improve the situation by playing the same guy on James Black. And nothing against James. He's a super nice kid. But you have to get somebody that can get you in a rhythm and a flow in that offense. And I'm just going to close it with that.
All right. Well, we got one more phone call. They just called back. I think they dropped off early. Let's take them. Let's bring them on the show, wrap things up here. Welcome on into the Warchant.com recruiting call and show with Michael Langston. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Mike from Ocala.
Mike.
Hey,
what's
Gator,
going on?
you're in Gatorland, Mike.
Hey, so yeah, I'm in Gatorland down here, but we're repping all the time.
I got you. What's on your mind? What's on your mind, Mike?
Anyway, I wanted to call in yesterday to the show, and I didn't get a chance to get through, but I was wondering if I could mention that on today's show, if that's all right.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Go for it.
All right, so anyway, just as a quick sidebar, because I know how you always like to, Adlon, you always like to know, like, who's famous that lives in your city.
Right.
Well, in Ocala, we have John Travolta, who lives in the city here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I've never met him before, but actually, my wife met him one night at the gym whenever she went late one night, and he was there, and that was pretty neat. So like waved to him from across the way. But anyway, okay, so now actually to my comments here, I feel like with the team that we have right now, we're pretty much playing with guys, or we are playing with guys that were recruited by 3 different coaching staffs.
Correct.
And, you have 3 different coaching staffs, players, basically, that were possibly told, different things. And then when each new regime comes in, they possibly have to have a different role. And I think the one that's been affected the most, obviously, I feel like, has been James Blackman, because he was from Jimbo Fisher, and he was brought in to primarily be a pocket passer that can launch the ball down, like, far down the field. But obviously with the deficiencies in our offensive line, his skill set really hasn't been able to shine like that, like he's truly wanted to with that part. But now with this staff, he's pretty much being asked to be a dink and dunk passer, which I feel like whenever we've had those scripted drives, James has looked fairly good and we've got the ball out quick. But I just feel like James doesn't want to be that type of player that just throws the ball quick. He wants to sit and scan and throw the ball far, at least when he does scan. So I just feel like that's been a couple things that has really been bothering him, because like whenever they're asking him to sit back there, he's not able to play like he wants to play if he doesn't have the time to. But if he gets it out quickly, I mean, hey, we're making plays, because I see a lot of teams doing that around the country, getting the ball out quick, getting it in space. and just letting the athletes, run down the field. So anyway, so that's where, my head's been at with the team. And I just feel like in a lot of ways, the coaches know that James doesn't want to be that dink and dunk passer, even though that's how he's going to be the most successful with his team if he throws it short, if he is the one starting. But I don't know. So, that's just where I've been lately. And that's why we haven't had as much success.
No, I appreciate the call, Mike. I appreciate those thoughts. I mean, there's different opinions on James Blackman. My biggest thing is, the scripted plays we see, as you alluded to, he goes down there, everything seems to be smooth. They're keeping him off direction. And then after that, it falls apart. And I just can't agree with that. It's more so just the fit of the offense. It's like things of seeing the field. I don't see a lot as far as that. And even when he scrambles to do things that he wants to do, I don't think he's being asked to dink and dunk. I think he's asking to survey the field and get the ball in his hands. That's what they're asking him to do. Make the decisions quick, make the hard reads, hard slants, throw the ball, get it to him. And the problem is James has been through, and you're right, he's been through 3 coaches. I think mentally he has been beat up. Like mentally, this guy has been just beat the crap up every week. For 3 years, this guy's been beat up. It's not fair. And this happened is not fair to him, but at the same time, he sees stuff sometimes when there's no pressure at all. Like sometimes there's no pressure, and he feels like there's pressure there. So I think mentally he has broke down as far as feeling things that aren't there. And then two, just the basic things of guys being open and seeing the field, and he seems to lock into receivers. And after that, it's kind of, things fall apart. But you got to get somebody that has some sort of flow with the offense. And that's my point.
Sure. No, I appreciate that. Thanks for that perspective there. But, we wish James nothing but the best of luck. And, we'll see what happens this week or who's going to play or how much.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. But I do know we certainly need a win. And I'm not, one of those fans that checked out on the season. I mean, it's one game at a time. And, as long as Florida State's there, I feel like we got a shot, at least, an outside shot, to play well. I mean,
I think a lot of people feel like you do, Mike. There's a lot of people that feel like, there's some frustrated fans and emotionally they're upset. But I think there's a lot of people that feel the same way you do, that we got a chance to fix this. We got a chance to adjust things, that they can be a really good football team. FSU can, play at a lot better level than what they're doing. And I think a lot of people believe in that, but we'll just have to see what happens, what adjustments and changes and shifts and just how they play from week to week and go from there.
All right, Mike.
All right.
We appreciate the phone call.
Yeah, you're welcome. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
That's right, man. All right, man. That is, it's not a wrap until I do this. So here we go. Let's all hunker down and.
We are sorry, but the show has ended. Goodbye.
There we go. All right. What's going on over on the PRB, Michael?
We're just getting ready for obviously another week. I think we had several updates already posted on the PRB of key targets like Terrion Arnold, running back Byron Carswell. That's on the board where you can read those things. Marvin Cooper, we didn't even talk about him. DB. That's other schools like Michigan are still pushing for him. So there's some good stuff on there. Marvin Jones Jr., who's phenomenal, by the way, says FSU seems like FSU's recruiting the hardest, so that's a good sign. Even without all that stuff that happened in Miami, that certainly doesn't stink for FSU. But and then we have Friday Night Rewind coming up this weekend, and then later I'm going to start getting up with some prospects to kind of set up that big weekend for October 17th when they play North Carolina. Obviously, this weekend Jacksonville State, then on the road against Notre Dame, and upcoming is that North Carolina game, which I think is going to be a big deal. It'll show. I think that's the game that I got circled out of all the games the rest of the season. Like that, say you go into Jacksonville State, win that game, and then go to Notre Dame, play them pretty well, but come back home and you, whenever you play North Carolina, I think that's going to be the kind of big stage game for them.
Gotcha. All right. Well, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. Shout out to Ray, 7 Toms. I think he also threw some money in the tip jar. So we appreciate the tips. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you could hit the thumbs up on your way out if you haven't done so already, we really would appreciate it. Head over to the PRB. Check out all the great stuff Michael's doing over there. Mike, thanks for the time and the knowledge, man.
You got it. We appreciate everybody. Thanks for the donations, Ray. We appreciate the calls that, hey, we don't agree with you, but all we ask is just be respectful, to what we're doing. I mean, so you do that, guys. We want people to have disagreements with what we say. So going over to the PRB, I'm fixing to jump in there and I'm going to answer all your questions that are from the chat. And thanks again for you guys joining us.
Real quick though, Michael, Ray Pereira says he wants a prediction.
Give me I don't know who's starting a quarterback, so I got to know who's starting a quarterback. So starting a quarterback, I'll give you two. So I have no idea. I can't give you one, Ray. I'm sorry. I just don't have a prediction right now. Until I know who's starting a quarterback, I can't really say.
Check out the PRB. That's called the T's in the business. Thanks, everybody. Catch up.